You know how difficult it is to be a conservative? It's so hard, okay? Because you can just be living your life. You can just be having a good day. You can just be doing whatever. You can be chilling. You can be at the movie theater, whatever. And you learn something devastating. Now, imagine you're a conservative and you learn that the character Indiana Jones thinks it's okay to punch Nazis. I know, right? It's out of hat. You're a conservative. It's like, what? But that's exactly what happened to many conservatives just the other day.
Indiana Jones has taken on this elevated symbolic significance in recent years because we've actually seen, bizarrely, proliferation of actual real life Nazis parading around, and some of them are getting punched. So what I want to know is, would the ultimate Nazi puncher, Indiana Jones, would he support these people doing the punching?
He'd push them out of the way to get in the first punch, as well he should.
Yeah.
That was a black and white world, and this evil presented itself to the world. It's incalculable that this vision of evil not be confronted.
In terms of real.
So, yeah, as you can imagine, that was pretty rough for conservatives. Believe it or not, this is actually discourse. Are you going to see the new Indiana Jones movie, by the way? No. That shit looks garbage. There are 3 Indiana Jones movies. I don't care. Also, Harrison Ford clearly doesn't care either, I don't care. No, believe it or not, this is discourse. The funniest thing that I saw, right, it's stuff like this. It's a lot of conservatives. First of all, I like the everyone I don't like is Hitler post here, because they're not even calling anyone specific Nazis. They're just saying Nazis do exist today. So I guess the implication is this Malvenue person thinks there are literally no Nazis in existence today. But the conservatives, that I saw that were getting like super angry over this were basically saying, well, the problem is, like, no one knows what a Nazi is anymore. So, like, it's like people are just getting punched for being white, which people saying that are Nazis. People saying that are Nazis, or they're so stupid that they're holding water for Nazis, at which point, like, in a political sense, they're pretty indistinguishable for the purposes of this argument. What a lot of people don't seem to understand is that, like, if you went back in time 80 years or whatever, the average Nazi, so by Nazi, we don't all mean SS members. It's like Wehrmacht or whatever, or like just people in the party or whatever. Like, what do they think that these Nazis talked about day to day? Like, a lot of people seem to think that there's some kind of, like, meaningful distinction between being a Nazi back then and holding the same ideological positions as a Nazi now. Which, like, why? In what other context is that the way we think of things, right? Like, if somebody said, like, oh, yeah, I'm a New Deal Democrat or whatever, today it's like, well, you can't be a New Deal Democrat. The New Deal was 80 years ago, idiot. Like, well, no, you're talking about the ideology. You go, like, if you look at the shit the Nazis talked about back then, they weren't just like writing out Mein Kampf and Sieg Heiling all the time. The political arguments they made were the same the political arguments conservatives today make. Xenophobia, the fear of immigration, a belief that degeneracy within the nation was tearing apart like Western civilization. It's the same thing. So I think a lot, because being incapable of interpreting and processing media is like the main thing that defines conservatives politically when it comes to their relationship to, say, Indiana Jones or anything that isn't just straight up told to their face directly. The idea that any conservative could watch Indiana Jones and think that that was like fine and on their side until Harrison Ford specifically has to say, yeah, he wouldn't just have punched Nazis then, he would punch Nazis even if they lived in the modern world. It betrays such an unbelievable ignorance of the source material and the intentions. Yeah, I don't know. No, he didn't even call conservatives Nazis. He just said punching Nazis today, right? It's like when cons thought Squid Game was about communism. Well, nowadays, conservatives genuinely get really defensive whenever Nazis are the enemies in media. Remember the Wolfenstein games? I remember Wolfenstein, they marketed like Make America Nazi Free Again or something, like from 2016 onwards, ever since Trump's presidency. And there were legitimately like waves of conservative backlash to these movies. And they did the exact same thing then too, where they were like, I'm really offended by this game where the enemy are Nazis. I'm not a Nazi, but like, you know, like when they say Nazis, what they mean is like all conservatives. Not projecting, not projecting, not projecting, not projecting. You know, like, yeah, I'm not like defending Nazis. It's just when they attack Nazis, they're attacking me. But I'm like, I'm not a Nazi, you know, like, but like I'm in a group of people they're attacking. Nazi, well, no, like, but they think that we're Nazi. Like, literally, though. Scroll down, there's literally someone who believes there's no Nazis in America. Okay, when people say that, I think they know they're lying, though, because they have no problem saying there are communists in America, even though, like, we're not in the Soviet Union or Mao's China. They have no issue with that. And there are Nazi parties all around the world. I think they know they're lying. It's not a position that you can actually hold. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can actually hold that position. Like, if you're capable of putting your pants on and tying your shoelaces, I don't think you can believe there are no Nazis in America. I think that has to be a lie. These people think to be a Nazi you have to wear an SS outfit. More than that, I've literally seen people like there were a couple of times where there was some minor news chatter about guys who during Halloween would wear Germany like SS outfits and then go to bars and heckle or harass gay or Jewish people or whatever. And I still saw people saying like, "Oh, it's all a bit of good fun." You know, we have to understand that being cowardly is just a part of Nazism. They're just a naturally cowardly people. They're weak. They can't defend their positions because they know they're morally abhorrent, so they have to play this constant rhetorical dance where, like, they'll agree with everything they can get away with, they'll disavow whatever they can't get away with, and they'll, like, play plausible deniability on every level of exposure they either willingly or unwillingly get put through. And there's a lot of stuff that we tell ourselves to. I mean, this shit has, like, layers, right? Like, sure, there are probably not that many actual, like, people who believe in Nazism, Nazis in America, but there are tons of people who hold the same basic positions on major political issues. And then there are people who don't, but do like nonstop Nazi apologia that we've just normalized in mainstream media. The clean Wehrmacht myth is a big one of those. The idea that like the SS and Hitler and so on were bad, but the Wehrmacht, the German army, was just like a bunch of recruits doing their best in a bad situation, which is historically, provably not true. The Wehrmacht was complicit in the Holocaust in many areas. Their invasion into Poland had them take a supervisory role over the Jewish ghettos, the rounding up and loading onto trains of, you know, the idea that the Wehrmacht were just doing soldier stuff, just absolutely not true. And the obsessive belief that the Nazis had, like, super mega secret ultra tech or whatever, like they were more technologically advanced than like the United States or wherever else, which is again just like not true. There were a couple of techs they got, there were a couple of techs we got. The whole myth of that like eating carrots makes your night vision better was because we wanted to give an explanation for how we were all of a sudden so super duper good at seeing in the dark, and it was because we had invented radar. We wanted, so like we were thinking like, well, the British were thinking, because they were the ones who did the propaganda campaign, well, we don't want the Germans figuring out that we've used sound, that we've mastered sound to find out where their planes are. So instead, we're gonna say some bullshit about like carrots and see where that goes. I don't know if that myth ever actually worked or whatever, but to this day, a bunch of people think carrots improve your night vision, which, I mean, your body gets better if you eat vegetables generally, but that's just like a vitamin deficiency thing. It doesn't work. It's not a real thing. You know, like the Germans had the V2 rocket, we made nukes, but like people think, oh, you know, the Nazis had like super secret, ultra super duper mega tech, which they didn't. Just radars, EM waves. Sorry, not sound, EM waves. Yes, sorry. It's bouncing. Yes, it's not literally sound. Sorry. I was thinking of sonar. It's still cool, though. Also, if you eat too much carrot for an extended period of time, your skin literally turns orange. Okay. look, the only thing that I'm getting at here is just, I think that a lot of conservatives, leaving aside the conservatives who are like really defensive about the whole Nazi thing in a way that really implicates their politics, I think a lot of conservatives are really insecure over the idea that far-right people exist because they're politically illiterate and don't really understand where their politics come from or what they lead to, you know? I think that most leftists, even like Bernie Sanders type leftists, like social democrats with a progressive twist, right? Like even those types, I think they understand, maybe not perfectly, but they understand the concept of like far left radicalization going in directions that aren't necessarily good. I think it's pretty easy for your average like social democrat or Bernie-crat or whatever to imagine like the guy who suddenly thinks the Soviets did no wrong. And for that reason, I think they're capable of a degree of self-moderation. The conservative, however, is currently being groomed into modern-day fascism, and for that reason, they have to be ignorant of what the process of that grooming looks like. The conservative cannot understand how close they are to those positions, or that they're already there. Because if they did understand, if they did have an idea of what it looks like to be further right, far enough right, that even they would denounce them, then they would go very suddenly like, oh my God, what the and they would move away from that, you know? So we're going to see stuff like this continue to happen. Wasn't service in the Wehrmacht compulsory, though? Listen, it was Nazi Germany. A lot of stuff was compulsory. But also, like, you know, playing to the ethics of Wehrmacht participation, okay? We have plenty of historical evidence that the Wehrmacht did lots of stuff they didn't have to. You know, there were high generals, like in the Wehrmacht, right? It wasn't like every single recruit was being directed by the SS. They did a lot of bad stuff. A lot of bad. Not good. And they were high on meth. That is true. Do you think the German army was as culpable as SS members in the Holocaust? See, questions like this make me wonder, right? There's no way ethically to answer a question like that. We're like, will this group of millions of people and this group of thousands of people equal? They both did the Holocaust. Like, I'm not keeping an abacus on the exact proportion here. The SS would not have been capable of carrying out the Holocaust without the Wehrmacht. The SS were ideological officers. There weren't enough of them to carry out the Holocaust. The Wehrmacht was a necessary part of that process. And leading in with my hot political take that the Holocaust was bad, you know, I think that makes both of those groups bad. For that and some other reasons. Did a lot of bad stuff, as it turns out.